Macquarie Marshes of today is not the Macquarie Marshes that was once there. La Nina's been really important in terms of providing that water that's critical for the marshes. What we've had the real privilege of seeing is this ecological response. We see frogs and we see water birds breeding. We've got probably millions of tiny invertebrates that are hatching out and their own little food web under the water. Amazing diversity of aquatic plants, colonies of ibis and spoonbills and herons and egrets that all breed in there. This is just an amazing colony here in the marshes, one of many egret and night heron colonies. So we've got some night herons here on the edge of this colony, up high, these amazing brown birds, which are nocturnal, but they're obviously doing lots of things at the moment. And then as you look deep into this colony, you see that the egret nests are at all sorts of different levels. So they're up high, mid-story, lower level, and all of them are at various stages. I can see some have chicks. You can see these egrets in full breeding plumage, so they've got these amazing plumes coming out of their off the top of their necks. And the noise, it's that sort of cacophony of action with every single one of these pairs trying to get their chicks hatched, out, grown up, and out into the big wide world out there with this amazing marshes. With all the roads cut, it's very hard to get in there. As that water subsides, people will be able to sort of get more access to the area. I think there's some really big challenges with all of these river systems and how to keep them healthy. And it is a lot about where the water that's needed for places like the Macquarie Marshes is and how sustainable that is. We worry about the impacts of climate change. We know there's going to be another drought. In agriculture, we're sometimes used to managing for one species. We've got thousands of species in the Macquarie Marshes.
I've been out at the Macquarie Marshes with a bunch of students from the University of New South Wales, and we've been going out at night and surveying for frogs. This is the wettest I've ever seen the Macquarie Marshes, so for a frog biologist it's been absolutely heaven. I have never seen so many frogs in my life. So there's about a dozen species of frog that call the Macquarie Marshes home. Some of them are pretty abundant. There's been the barking marsh frog, which has kind of been barking like little dogs, are all over the marshes at the moment. So I'd say we've probably heard thousands and thousands of them just in a couple of days alone. There's a couple of frogs that I really wanted to see, but unfortunately they're so tricky because they really needed to absolutely pour. But I've been really keen to see the holy cross frog, which is been described as like a bedazzled potato. So a very round frog that spends most of its life underground and only pops up maybe after months or even years when it starts to flood and floats from the water's surface and sort of goes whoop, whoop. So I've been listening out for that call, but we didn't see it this time. The other iconic Macquarie Marshes frog to me is the eastern water holding frog, which is the sort of frog you read about in textbooks. It makes a cocoon of its own skin and kind of secretions and fat. It buries underground and it just sort of hibernates. One of the tricky things about studying frogs and trying to understand how our frogs are doing in Australia and whether they're going crazy right now in the floods or which species are maybe suffering, which ones are doing well, is that they're really hard to find sometimes. So you often hear frogs, but you can't actually see them. And there was actually at least one species in this last few days at the marshes that I never saw once, but I heard a lot. And so the cool thing about frogs is that they are yelling out what species they are. So each species of frog has a different call, kind of like birds. And so all you have to do is listen out and you'll be able to tell what frogs are around you.